And that could be a talk for another day. But for today, we're going to talk about joy. The book of Joy has inspired me, reading it in 2020 when it became a very different world. The book of Joy was something that sustained me. How can I keep joy in the midst of confusion and chaos and unknown and uncertainty and all the news that was in the world? And the same holds true today. How can we keep that joy? Oops. In the wind. So I take these writings from the Book of Joy, written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. This book came to be as a result of a week that they spent with Douglas Abrams. And Douglas Abrams interviewed the two of them during the course of this week in honor and celebration of their 80th birthdays. And this happened in 2015. So it's an amazing book and makes a really good book study. Today we're going to talk about the pillars of joy, those qualities that constitute joyful living. Okay, is that better? Okay, thank you. Thank you for speaking to that. I could hear it, but I didn't know what to do about it. So joy is a practice in life, just as prayer, meditation, or exercise routine are a practice, so is joy. In fact, the book of Joy devotes 41 pages to a variety of practices that grow joy. So it's a practice. It's something that we can cultivate in our life just like anything else. So the first four qualities of the pillars of joy are qualities of our mind, our thinking mind. The fourth four pillars of joy are qualities of the heart. So we integrate mind and heart to show up. We don't show up just purely as our thinking mind, because it's all intellectual. We leave out the feeling. And if we move solely from our heart, we leave out our discernment of mind. So we combine the heart and the mind for the fullness of joy. So we're going to talk first about perspective. Perspective of life. Everyone here probably has a different perspective about this as your gathering place. The beauty of the space, yet the inconvenience of having to carry everything to the space every Sunday. The inconvenience of inclement weather. But oh my gosh, isn't this beautiful? I said earlier when I arrived, this is my dream sanctuary. This is what I dream of as a gathering of church. This is what I dream of as a place to be, so I feel so honored to be in this space. The birds singing, the wind blowing, the sun shining, the chill in the air, and the beautiful souls who have come. That's my dream of church. No walls. Open for everyone to come, at passerbys who may coincidentally be here today. That's my perspective of church. And yet I realize that my perspective might be very different. I came from a church that was very traditional looking church building with the beautiful walls and stained glass windows and wooden pews and a formal altar. Everyone's perspective is different. We know that sometimes painfully when it comes to political discourse, social justice issues. There's a full spectrum of opinions and perspectives. And we, as people who are living in faith and a spiritual walk, can raise our perspective from that of this human world, the world that we feel hurt and offended, the part of the world where we might feel resentment or jealousy or judgmentalness. I know in these past couple of years, I've become a little bit judgmental about some things. I work on that. Yes, a significant work in process. But when we lift our thinking beyond this sense world, beyond this human world, which we have the privilege to live in these bodies, yet isn't the total reality of life. When we lift our consciousness to that higher divine consciousness, we can see things differently. We can see that there's purpose in most things. I might not be able to discern the true purpose, but I can see where good can come out of experiences of life. I can see good that comes out of this experience of the pandemic. I have to look really hard some days, but I can, if I look from my spiritual consciousness, I can see something good. It has made us so aware of the importance of being together. It has made us so aware of how we need one another. We are one humanity. And the pandemic has shown us that. And so there's many, many ways to see things. What if all of those ways of seeing things, every experience, are all okay? What if they're all correct? What if there is no wrong way of looking at life? What if it calls us to be open-minded, to hear one another, and to see that morsel of truth in another person's opinion? It doesn't all have to be true. We don't have to live their reality. We don't have to live what they believe. But can we find a morsel of truth in what another thinks? It's this perspective is looking at life without attachment to what must be. Does my way have to be right? Is my way the only way? Can others be right? Can their rightness sit alongside my rightness for the fullness of humanity? So we can receive all of these opinions, and we can respond to them from our highest true consciousness. We can respond with love, even in disagreement. We also have this mind pillar of joy that is humility. And Webster Dictionary describes humility as being free from pride or arrogance. Sometimes people think that humility means lowly. I think it means not puffed up. Rather than diminishing our divinity, rather than diminishing our worth with humility, we accept our goodness, our greatness, the way in which we are created with reverence. And reverence can be quite humble, can be pure, and it can be good. We can recognize that there is no one above us, but neither is there anyone beneath us. That we are all on the same playing field in the eyes of the divine. Rather, there is a thread of humanity that binds us all together. There is the thread of humanity that keeps us as one. Your joy is my joy. Your suffering is my suffering. That homeless person that you may have passed the other day, they are you, and you are they. There is nothing that separates us. Only in our mind is the human construct of separation of one from another. We have common desires. We all have common needs. We all want peace. We all want to be loved and accepted just the way we are. We want to feel connected. Now, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu talk about laughter and humor being one of those pillars of joy. And I've got to confess, I'll laugh, but I take life pretty seriously too. When I look at the headlines, when I look at what is happening in my world, when I think about those beautiful souls of Ukraine and the suffering, and I hear their stories of not knowing what is going to happen in their lives one minute to the next, when I see them carrying their four-legged families out of their cities or hiding in their basements, how can I be laughing and see humor in that? I don't find myself easily laughing about violence against one person or another, be it war, be it domestic violence, be it schoolyard bullying, and any of those things. They seem pretty serious to me. And yet, here we are with these two brilliant spiritual leaders telling me that humor and laughter are pillars of joy. And that's what they agree on, that laughter is important. It's good for us to laugh. It's good for our heart to laugh. It gives us strength and durability to sustain life when we laugh. They say, both the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop say that when we laugh, we are able to relax and be at ease. And then we can move into those issues of life from an open-mindedness, from an ease of being. We can diffuse anger with laughter. And Archbishop called on that laughter to diffuse the anger when he was working against apartheid. So when we relax, when we laugh, we can relax and be open. Our minds can see and hear solutions to life's problems. The next pillar of joy is acceptance. Both of these great men have experienced very dramatic and traumatic experiences in their life. And the Dalai Lama being exiled from Tibet. Archbishop Tutu working so diligently for freedom and for eliminating apartheid and oppression for his people. Were they to accept that? But acceptance isn't giving up. Acceptance isn't passive. Quite the opposite. Acceptance is quite active, because acceptance is power. And they tell this way of dealing with acceptance is the experience that we're in that we don't like. Is there anything we can do about it? If not, just live with it and stop whining about it. If there's nothing you can do, just let it be. And yet, if there is something to do, go and do that. Go and do that. Be the change that you're called to be. Be the action that you're called to be. Do that and stop fussing. Release the attachment to what must be, what the world is supposed to look like, and face what is. A Buddhist teaching is that when we wish and want life to be differently than it is, that's when we suffer. And when we have this life that might not be what we want it to be, when we lean into that, then we claim our power and can change it. So if there is something in your community, something in your world, something in your life that causes you to feel ill at ease, do what's yours to do about it, to shift it and change it. And then we won't suffer. It's the power of change. Those are the pillars of the mind. And we have the pillars of the heart. And both of these men begin with the pillar of forgiveness. What's your practice of forgiveness? Anybody? Do you have a consistent practice to forgive when you feel offended by someone? There's many, many practices of forgiveness. Sometimes people write a letter to the person they believe offended them. It's a letter that we don't send. We put it away. If you feel like you need to send it, don't. Put it away for a week, and if you pull it out and read it again and you feel like you would need to send it, don't. A year or two later, if you read it again and you still feel like you need to send that letter, don't. That letter is not for the person that offended you. That letter is for you. That letter is for you to release it, to get that energy out of your body. Some people hold the person that they feel has offended them or wronged them in the aura of white, pure light, the aura of the white, cleansing light. And there is a Hawaiian tradition that is just so beautiful. It's called Ho'oponopono, and it's 4 steps. And when we have offended someone or something, maybe an affront to nature, we can say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. 4 easy statements, and they're beautiful. So choose a practice of forgiveness and make it part of your practices. Because forgiveness doesn't say that what you did was okay. Forgiveness says what may be saying what you did was so egregious that I want no part of it. I don't want to spend time in the energy of this horrendous experience. So I'm going to let it go. So that you can go on and live your life however you feel you need to, and I can be free of any of those binds between us and that horrendous activity. And I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to forgive you. Now, I'm not going to have coffee with you on Tuesday. I'm going to forgive you, and I'm going to place you here. So how do we know who to forgive? Sometimes it's really easy, and sometimes there's that little gnawing in the back. It's anyone that we have put outside of our heart. Anyone that we withhold that power of love from. That's where we begin with our forgiveness. And how do I know when I'm complete with my forgiveness? For me, and you'll find your own way of knowing when you're done. Sometimes it's just that sigh of knowing you're empty of that resentment or those hard feelings that you're holding against a person. For me, it's when I feel gratitude for the experience and when I feel gratitude for the person. That's how I know my forgiveness is complete. Because I've gained the gift that the experience or the person came to me with. I've learned something really powerful from them. I've learned to set a boundary of safety for myself. I've learned a lot. And I can feel grateful for all that I've learned. Now, the Archbishop and the Dalai Lama had quite a discourse on this topic of forgiveness. And you can find snippets of their interviews on YouTube. And that's how I learned of the Book of Joy, by seeing this YouTube video. And they're sitting in these chairs side by side, and they're great pals, and they're laughing with each other, and they're talking about forgiveness. And one of them says, people think that forgiveness is weakness, that you're allowing someone to get away with something. Forgiveness is not weakness. In fact, forgiveness is strength. Forgiveness is our power to stand strong and be the people that we say we want to be. And then they talk about how forgiveness allows us to move beyond and past what's happened and to appreciate the present moment. What happened in the past can't be changed, but it should not encroach on this moment. That this moment can stand in its beauty and its grace for all that it is, and not be encumbered by what happened in the past. We forgive so that we can be at peace. And when they've concluded their talk, they share that some people think that forgiveness doesn't work. And they say that people think that forgiveness doesn't work because they've never tried it. And then they lean into each other and laugh like schoolboys. It's adorable. And they remind us, the Archbishop reminds us, that no one is incapable of forgiving. We all have the ability to forgive. And more importantly, no one is unforgivable. No one is unforgivable. Take that in. So, forgiveness is a powerful practice in life. And then we move to the pillar of gratitude. Oh my gosh. I walked onto these grounds and immediately felt enormous gratitude for all of this. Nature is so healing, so comforting, so beautiful to be here. The Dalai Lama says his practice of gratitude begins with these words. Each day as you wake up, say, I am fortunate to be alive. Repeat that with me. I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. Not going to waste it. And throughout the interview, they share their gratitude for each other. They share their gratitude for the presence of each other. And they paused often to thank each other for the presence in each other's life. So what are you grateful for today already? It's, 10:30? You probably have 5, 6, 25 things that you're grateful for already. Shout one out. Coffee. Did somebody say beer? To be here. Oh, oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to switch your words, but it's and coffee and to be here and
our beautiful pets to wake us up in the morning.
yeah,
Friendship.
friendship. Yes, love. Yes. There's so much to be grateful for. And that doesn't mean that, there aren't other things in life, but gratitude kind of opens us to be receptive. Gratitude opens us to be receptive to the goodness in the world and the goodness of life, so that we have the resilience to navigate those things that feel burdensome, those things that feel serious and heavy and daunting. Even when differences arise, we can be grateful for people. Think of the people that you've had conflict with and all the good things that you learned. Perhaps you learned to listen to another opinion. Perhaps you learned to just leave a lot of space between you and someone else. Those are great. Those are lessons that we can be grateful for. We can be grateful for our families and treasured friends, and don't take them for granted. Don't let your friends go without knowing how much you care for them, how much you love them and your family. Yes. Gratitude is recognizing all the things that hold us together as humanity. And gratitude is recognizing each moment for the gift that it is. And the authors of the book say, gratitude moves us from a narrow focus to a broader focus. And if you wake up in the morning and you feel grumpy, just notice it, and then notice something to be grateful for. And notice how you can't stay grumpy when you're grateful. It shifts all of our energy into the goodness of life. And remember with gratitude that this human world does not give us our joy. We find that joy within. We find that joy for ourselves. So while the human world doesn't give us our joy, neither can the human world take away our joy. Now we can give away our joy to the human world, but they can't take it unless we allow it. So it's not our source and it's not the limit of it. And from gratitude, they move to the pillar of compassion. Oh my goodness, I've felt such compassion for in this space this morning, for each other, for your people who are recovering, for the people of Ukraine. I've felt enormous compassion. And when we're in that space of compassion, we're opened, body and mind and spirit. And we can remember that the word compassion literally means to suffer with. So we can be present to another person's suffering. We can be present with them and we can sit with them in their suffering. We develop that by wanting for others the same things that we want for ourselves. And there isn't a faith tradition on the planet that doesn't teach us that. The Quran, the Torah, all the sacred texts is to want for others the same things that you want for yourself. We want love for ourselves so we can desire all people to feel loved. We want peace for ourselves so we can desire for all beings to feel at peace. And we all want to be free, to do what we're inspired to do, so we can desire that freedom for all people. And compassion begins with ourselves, by accepting ourselves lovingly with all our frailties. I know some people might think they're perfect, but we all have frailties. We all have shortcomings. We all have idiosyncrasies and habits that we or our beloveds might want us to change. But know always that when you look into the eyes of another, you will never look into the eyes of a person, a creature, a being that God does not love. Those people that we find fault with, those people on the other side of the aisle, whatever side you land on, those people with those strong differences of opinions about government and social justice and the ills of the world, when we look at compassion and we practice compassion, we can see them differently. So there's a compassion practice that just touches my heart very deeply. And it's an exercise. I'm going to ask you to do it with me. You willing? Think of a person for which you may have had a challenge or a difficulty. Think of a person with which you may have had a disagreement. If not yesterday, then, in the past week or the past year. Think of a person that you may have had a disagreement with. And hold them in this space that, just like me, they are seeking happiness in life. Just like me, they are seeking to avoid suffering in life. Just like me, they have experienced loneliness, sadness, and despair. Just like me, they are seeking to fulfill their needs. Just like me, they are learning about life. Did you feel a little bit of shift in energy towards that person when you recognize those things just like you? Because I suspect there's somebody in our lives that we have, they feel that way about us. I might be the thorn in someone. Yes, it's possible that we might be the thorn in someone's side. We might be that person to someone else. Just like me. What I have found with this exercise of compassion is that often I have to do the exercise and practice of compassion before I can move to forgiveness. Yes. And that practice is written by Harry Palmer in his book, Techniques for Exploring Consciousness. And I find it to be powerful. And with heartfelt compassion, we move to the pillar of generosity. When we practice all of these pillars, when we look at life with a different perspective than our human eyes, when we move with that compassion, we can share those qualities with others. And there are people in the news who, they think totally opposite than me. Yet I can be generous for them. I can be compassionate in the suffering of others. I can be grateful. Our eyes are open and we can see more. We are generous. When we live a life of generosity, we give from the overflow of what is in us. So if there's anger, then we are generously giving our anger. If there is resentment, then we are generously giving our resentment. So whatever is in us is pouring out into the world. So make sure you tend to what is inside. Make sure you tend to all of those things. So that what is flowing into the world with generosity and ease is peace, love, joy, harmony, kindness, compassion. Make sure that what is flowing and overflowing generously into the world is what you would consciously choose to put out into the world. And when I look around here, I don't think there's anyone here that would say, well, I want to put anger into the world because it doesn't have enough. No, I don't think that's true at all. I think everyone here would say, I want to put love into the world because the world is crying and aching and screaming for love right now. So we give from that overflow. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu give generously into the world. This book that they've shared is their gift for the world to create joy within so that we can share joy without. It's not about religion. It's not about any political party. It's not about rightness or wrongness. It's not about material giving. It's about giving from the heart and thinking and acting beyond self. Thinking and acting for the goodness of each other. And I see that and hear that in you. So live with joy. Let joy be what overflows into your world. And again, I thank you with all my heart for allowing me to be with you today on your final day here, and many, many blessings to you on your next home that will have everything in place perfectly every Sunday. Yeah, so namaste. Thank you so much.